You've probably heard of David, the great king of Israel. But what if I told you that the real hero of this story might be someone you rarely hear about? In today's video, we're going to uncover the hidden details of a friendship that defied everything: power, politics, and even the threat of death. Jonathan, the prince of Israel, had everything to be the future king, but he gave up his throne for a surprising reason. He chose David, his friend, and that choice changed the destiny of an entire nation. Get ready to discover the secrets of a friendship that stood the test of time and the toughest circumstances. What makes someone so loyal that they'd risk their own life? Stick with us until the end to understand how this story might change the way you see your own relationships and the true meaning of loyalty. Right after David's stunning victory over Goliath, his life changed drastically. It was during this time that Jonathan, King Saul's son, saw something in David beyond just his courage on the battlefield. Despite Jonathan being the prince of Israel and David, a simple shepherd, the two formed a deep and immediate bond. Their unshakable faith in God and shared humility laid the foundation for this unlikely friendship. Jonathan, who could have seen David as a threat to the throne, chose to see him as a brother, recognizing in him a strength and courage that came from God. What made this friendship even more remarkable was that Jonathan, despite being the rightful heir, understood that David was destined to be the future king of Israel. In an act of humility and loyalty, Jonathan made a covenant with David. He gave David his royal robe, his sword, his bow, and his belt, symbols of his position as prince. This wasn't just a gift, it was a clear demonstration that Jonathan was willing to give up his right to the throne because of their bond. Their friendship was marked by brotherly love and unconditional commitment. David and Jonathan's friendship was a rare example of loyalty that went beyond politics and ambition. While the world around them followed the rules of hierarchy and power, these two friends chose true honor and mutual trust. They saw each other with deep respect and without envy. For Jonathan, being David's friend meant protecting someone he knew was chosen by God. For David, having Jonathan as a friend was a gift during the turmoil of his rise to power. Even though they knew the circumstances would eventually put them on opposite sides, their friendship held strong under the pressure. Jonathan, with his clear vision and generosity, never hesitated to support David. The covenant between them was a reflection of their souls, connected by something bigger than themselves, their faith in God. While others might have seen David as a rival, Jonathan saw him as a brother, someone to walk alongside in loyalty, no matter what the future held. This connection between David and Jonathan was only the beginning of a friendship that would be tested many times. But from their very first meeting, they showed a nobility of spirit that few can achieve. The covenant that sealed their friendship would be remembered throughout history as an example of love, loyalty, and sacrifice that bound them together beyond their own destinies. As time went on, David's fame grew in Israel, and along with it, King Saul's jealousy intensified. Saul, realizing that David was becoming a beloved and powerful figure among the people, started seeing him as a threat to his throne. The tension between Saul and David escalated, but in the middle of this conflict, Jonathan, Saul's son, made a crucial decision: to protect his friend. Even knowing that David could one day take the throne that was rightfully his, Jonathan chose loyalty to his friendship. This loyalty was put to the test when Saul began plotting David's death. Jonathan, caught in the delicate balance between loyalty to his father and his friendship with David, chose to warn David about Saul's plans. He knew that helping David meant directly defying his father's authority and risking his own safety. Yet the bond between Jonathan and David was strong enough to overcome even the ties of blood. For Jonathan, integrity and truth mattered more than blindly following the path to power. The tension between Jonathan and Saul became obvious on several occasions. Saul, furious with his son's loyalty to David, tried to convince Jonathan that David was the enemy, but Jonathan, with a pure heart and clear vision, stood firm in his position. He defended David not only because he was his friend, but because he knew that David was God's chosen one to lead Israel. What could have been a power struggle between two heirs turned into an act of sacrifice and honor on Jonathan's part. Even under the increasing pressure from Saul, Jonathan continued to protect David. He risked his life by intervening for David, trying to persuade his father to reconsider his actions. But when Jonathan realized that Saul's plans were irreversible, he warned David to flee, saving his life. This act of protection was the ultimate proof that their friendship was stronger than any political or personal conflict. Jonathan, the Prince of Israel, chose friendship and loyalty over the throne and ambition. In a world where power often corrupts, he stood out as an example of integrity and sacrifice. By protecting David, Jonathan showed that the true value of friendship isn't in convenience, but in the willingness to risk everything for what is right and true. With Saul's pursuit of David becoming unbearable, David and Jonathan met one last time for an emotional farewell. The friendship that had been forged in moments of triumph and loyalty now faced the painful reality that they would have to part ways. Jonathan, knowing he couldn't stay by David's side due to his father's relentless anger, once again risked his safety to meet David in secret. By that time, they were no longer just friends, they were brothers at heart, connected by an eternal covenant before God. This farewell was one of the most moving moments in both their lives. They knew that their lives were taking different paths, and that imminent danger loomed over David. Even so, the love and trust between them remained unshaken. With tears in their eyes, Jonathan reaffirmed his loyalty to David, acknowledging that God had chosen his friend to be the future king of Israel. The pain of parting was clear, but there was also a sense of a greater purpose that their friendship would endure beyond earthly circumstances. The moment they sealed a covenant before God was marked by a promise that went beyond their own lives. Jonathan asked David to take care of his descendants no matter what happened. This gesture showed the depth of their friendship and Jonathan's trust in David's character. Both of them knew God's will was being fulfilled, but that didn't make their farewell any less heartbreaking. It symbolized not just the end of their daily companionship, but the acceptance that their destinies were set on different courses. Despite the sadness, David and Jonathan found comfort in knowing that their bond was eternal. They didn't know if or when they would see each other again, but their faith in God and mutual trust kept them connected, even from afar. For David, parting with Jonathan was a heavy blow, as he was losing not only a friend but his greatest ally in a time of danger. Yet even in their separation, their friendship proved stronger than adversity, standing as a testament to loyalty and commitment. This forced goodbye was the ultimate proof that the friendship between David and Jonathan didn't depend on circumstances. Although physically apart, the covenant between them continued to guide their lives. And in the midst of the pain of separation, there was hope that somehow God would keep alive the connection that had already transcended time and space. After Jonathan's death in the tragic battle against the Philistines, David was overwhelmed with grief. He didn't just mourn the loss of a great warrior, but also the loss of a friend who had sacrificed so much for the sake of loyalty. David's sorrow was expressed in a public lament where he praised Jonathan's courage and honor, describing his love as deeper than that of a brother. The friendship they had built in the face of challenges and trials had left a void in David's life that could never be filled. Even after he took the throne of Israel, David never forgot the covenant he made with Jonathan. In a gesture of honor and loyalty, David actively sought out any remaining descendants of Jonathan to whom he could extend mercy and protection. That's when David discovered Mephibosheth, Jonathan's son, who lived in exile, fearing that the new king might see him as a threat to the throne. But unlike other kings, who would eliminate the descendants of their predecessors, David chose to honor the promise he had made to Jonathan. When David found Mephibosheth, he treated him with compassion and dignity. He brought Jonathan's son to live in his own home, in the royal court, and restored to him all the land that belonged to Saul's family. Mephibosheth ate at the king's table as one of David's own sons, symbolizing that the covenant between David and Jonathan had transcended time and death. This act of mercy showed that for David, loyalty to his friendship with Jonathan was unbreakable, even though Jonathan was no longer there. David's care for Mephibosheth wasn't just a formality, it was living proof that the friendship between him and Jonathan continued to guide his actions. David wasn't just fulfilling a promise, he was keeping alive the memory and legacy of a friend who had given everything for him. This commitment to Jonathan's family not only honored the covenant they had made, but also showed the people of Israel the true value of a genuine friendship. Until the end of his life, David never forgot Jonathan. The friendship they shared, built on love, loyalty, and faith, left a lasting legacy. The story of David and Jonathan is a powerful example of how true friendship can transcend time, politics, and even death. David honored Jonathan in every way possible, showing that the covenant between two brave hearts would never be broken, no matter the circumstances. Now that you've heard the incredible story of Jonathan and David, the question is, what would you do for a true friend? Jonathan showed us that loyalty goes beyond words. It's proven through actions, even when the cost is high. His sacrifice didn't just change David's life, but it left a legacy of friendship that still echoes today. So, do you have someone in your life you'd trust on that level? Share in the comments what impacted you the most about this story and how it's changed the way you see your own friendships. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can keep discovering more inspiring stories that can change the way you live and relate to others. Oh, and be sure to check out our playlist on Abraham, another figure whose life was marked by a powerful covenant with God. Click here and find out more about the promises that transformed a nation.